Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment and hit the bell notification button. And let's dive into this week's episode. And another disappointing performance of Chelsea at the weekend, going down 1-0 to Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge, making it just one win in the first 6 games and a difficult start to life for Mauricio Pochettino. More questions than answers, as always, at Chelsea, it seems, so far this season. But there's so much to get into in today's episode, so I'm not going to dwell too long on the intro. And we're going to dive into it. I'm delighted to be joined by none other than Joey Knight. Mate, welcome to the channel. Thanks for coming on and really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, there's so many places we could start, but I guess for me, let's start. Why do you think it's going so wrong at the moment? Because I don't think as fans we expected it to be perfect at the start of the season. But when the fixtures come out, I looked at our run and I thought, do you know what? It's not terrible. Quite a decent first 5. Next run of fixtures up to the international break, not bad either. And we've got 5 points on the board from 6 games. That's poor, and they don't get any easier after the international break. So, like, already you're looking at it and you just think, fuck, Champions League qualification, no exaggeration, could be done by the October international break.
The season could be done by the October international break. And I'll tell you one thing, at the minute, I'm going to sound massively doom and gloom here. And I do genuinely believe, and maybe it's my heart rule in my head, that performances will pick up and results will pick up. And obviously all this will become irrelevant, what I'm about to say now. But if results don't pick up and performances don't pick up and we carry on averaging a point a game, maybe less or whatever, we better thank our lucky stars that there's Burnley, that there's Wolves, that there's Sheffield United, Luton Town, and I'd maybe drag Everton into it in this league, because that's our only saving grace at the minute. There's 5 worst teams in the league, and statistically, there's not even 5 worst teams in the league, because since the start of 2023, we're now below Everton, I'm pretty sure, in terms of who's picked up the most points. You know, we're completely rock bottom of that table since the start of the calendar year. But what I would say to counter that is, if you look at the teams that surround us in that calendar year table, obviously you couldn't imagine any of them hitting form the same way and having the same ceiling as you could imagine Chelsea at the minute. So, but to answer your question, listen, it's hard, mate. It's like Groundhog Day up at the Bridge at the minute. It's copy and paste every single performance. You know, we start off well, we look energetic. And I was saying to you off camera, like, the Liverpool game was almost like a false dawn, wasn't it? Because in that game, we went behind and we started off looking shaky and we didn't look composed. And we almost looked like the stage was a little bit too big for us. And then we came back into the game and we looked like the better team. And I thought in massive parts of that game, outclassed Liverpool. And knowing just how good Liverpool are and just how good they're showing themselves to be, I was drawing massive amounts of confidence from that. So to see how quickly things have unraveled for us, it's heartbreaking, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what it is, mate? I've been someone that's been banging this drum all season so far, saying that the performances are better than the points that are on the board. And to an extent, that is true. But then how long can we keep saying that and keep not getting the points? That sort of excuse starts not holding too much weight anymore. And you look at underlying numbers. Good. I've not looked at the underlying numbers from yesterday's game, but certainly from the first 5 games of the season, underlying numbers good. We play well in large parts of games. As you say, we create chances. We don't score them. We concede a goal, heads drop. And, you know, this for me is the worst thing for me, is that, as you know, as a Chelsea fan right now, as soon as we go a goal down, we're not winning a game. We know it's done. The best we're going to do is get a draw. And we're not getting hammered in games. We're losing by the odd goal. But with no goals in the team, with poor home form, poor form everywhere in general, you're going to win very few matches. And that's why we're struggling so much. But yes, the performances are better than the points tally suggests. But, I mean, mate, how long do you think we can keep trotting this line out? Because for me, I think, I don't want to say I'm done with saying it, because it is still partially true. But until you start actually doing it and picking the results up on the pitch, it's completely worthless saying you played well and you deserved more, because ultimately you get what you deserve at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think, look, mate, at the end of the day, goals win games and we're not scoring any goals. So you can give all these underlying numbers, but people tend, and listen, I have a very positive sort of outlook and approach when it comes to my club, but we do tend to search for a bit of optimism, and that's right. Any fan does do that. But the problem is we very rarely bring up the negative underlying numbers. The fact that we're completely top or bottom, however you describe it, off the table when it comes to big chances missed,
Shot conversion rate as well is piss poor.
Yeah. So the underlying numbers look good. Look, I was talking to Brian on the kickoff the other day, and he said to me, "Do you know what?" He went, "You do play some good football at times, though." And I said, "Yeah, but so did Burnley. So did Southampton last season. So did Swansea the season they went down. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of teams can play a good bit of football and can look nice in moments, but ultimately, points on the board is what matters. And at the minute, we're not getting it. And obviously, I'm going to do a video tomorrow where I speak about little bits and pieces that I think could be improved in Pochettino's performance so far as manager. But the problem with that is, as soon as you speak about that, you've got a sizable chunk of fans that say, "Oh, so you're calling for him out," and it's like, no one's above criticism. I'm sure there were times when JT got criticised for his performances. I'm sure there were times when, or not that many, albeit, but maybe Lampard got criticised for his performances. Jose Mourinho criticised for his managerial performances. So no one's above criticism. Do you know what I mean? So obviously there are things that I think can be rightly labelled at Poch without anyone saying we want him out. I think that's a very sort of reactionary take on it that a lot of people, because of the way that our club has operated in the past, would like to throw at Chelsea or Chelsea fans. But yeah, I do think that there's one or two slight mistakes that Pochettino's making. But I'd always counter that by saying, look, what do I know, mate? Do you know what I mean? I'm a lifelong Chelsea fan. I love my football, but I'm no Mauricio Pochettino. So yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the main sort of problem we're facing at the moment?
Well, look, the problem's obvious, as you've touched on, mate, that it's scoring goals. And this is where I do cut Poch a little bit of slack in terms of, look, I'm not, we'll get into some of the mistakes we think that he's making or some of the tactical things, playing players in certain positions and whatnot that he could change and could improve upon. But ultimately, if you look across our games this season, for me, I'm finding it hard to lay large portions of blame at his door, because you must, as a manager on the sideline, watching the amount of chances that we miss in games of football, you've got to be thinking, I've coached games here that are wins for virtually any other team in the league. We should have beaten Bournemouth, we should have beaten West Ham, we should have beaten Aston Villa at the weekend. In my opinion, we had more than enough chances to do that. There's a lot of games this season that we had the chances to win them and we didn't do it. So that's why I cut him some slack. But then certain parts of me are thinking, well, hang on a second, look, yes, we're ravaged by injuries, but the quality that we've got on the football pitch is more than enough to win against the teams that we've been playing against. For me, the Cole at left back thing, Cole's not been bad at left back, but he's not a left back. Why is that happening? It severely limits his game. And the Enzo Fernandez in the number 10 role experiment that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 games, I'm not having it. He's been terrible the last few games because he's not a number 10. You look at a number 10, like a James Maddison type player. That's not Enzo. He's a deep line playmaker. Play him in a pivot alongside Caicedo. Why was he a 10 and Gallagher was sitting deeper? It should have been the other way around if you're going to go with it. What does Cole Palmer have to do to get in the starting lineup? These are all small little things that, as a fan, look, don't get me wrong, as you said, what do we know at the end of the day? Yeah, we watch our team every week and we love it, of course. But ultimately, when it comes to the nitty-gritty and the tactical side of the game, and we're not seeing these players every day. We see them once a week on the football pitch at the weekend. But there are some questions that I feel need answering. And I'm not saying that we're going to suddenly start winning football matches if we play Levi Cole at centre-back, Ben Chilwell at left-back, we get Enzo and Caicedo pivot, and we get Cole Palmer as a number 10. I'm not saying that suddenly solves everything, but why
we'll have a better fucking chance.
Why can't we just see it? I mean, is that one of your big things, mate, with Poch right now? Is kind of the tactical side of things, that the players in how they're being deployed on the pitch. And I think I look at him as well in certain games this season. I think where he's reactive with his changes and his in-game management rather than proactive, rather than anticipating a situation coming, he waits for it to happen and then changes. Weekend prime example. He waits till we're a goal down to bring Broja on. Like, little things like that don't make sense to me.
Mate, I was saying so much. You've pretty much echoed everything that I was saying the other day on the kickoff. Like, when we was watching it, I was like, why is Broja not on the pitch yet. Do you know what I mean? And I get he's coming back from injury, but let's not forget. Sorry, he's been training with the boys for months now, and obviously he's a young player coming back from a long layoff and whatnot. But obviously, Broa coming on, that's something I want to see. Look, if I'm Mauricio Pochettino right now, or if I could give some advice to Mauricio Pochettino right now, I'd say definitely keep the 4-2-3-1 because we played it in the last few matches. I know people were saying we were playing a 4-2-3-1, but at times it didn't look like it, especially against Liverpool. I think Levi Colwell needs to come into the left centre-back position. I think Chilwell needs to be at left-back. Like to see Maatsen getting more minutes, but in terms of an actual starting 11 right now, if we sort of bar the injuries and suspensions we've got, not the injuries, sorry, but the suspensions we've got in Jackson and Malo Gusto, I just think it needs to be a midfield pivot of Enzo and Caicedo. I was actually calling for Enzo to be given a chance at number 10. I've now seen 3-4 matches of it. I don't really like it. And that's maybe the difference between the fans and the manager. I can put my hands up and go, yeah, I got that one wrong. Enzo weren't really supposed to be a number 10. So I'd like to see them two in the pivot. Cole Palmer is one that he's come on in 3 separate matches now. And in 3 separate matches, he's nearly been the game changer. So give him a start. I am there. When are we playing? Tomorrow night?
Wednesday night.
I'm there Wednesday night, yeah? If Cole Palmer don't start that match, I'm going to be absolutely fuming because what are we doing then? Like, I know we put a bit too much emphasis on price tags and maybe we shouldn't because it's the first things that other rival fans will throw at us. But Cole Palmer needs to be starting. We've got an Nkunku-shaped hole in that number 10 at the minute. And obviously, Chukwuemeka's injury is adding to that. And he's a player that I thought would be massive for us this season. But we've got Cole Palmer there. We've got Cole Palmer there. What are we doing? Like, Cole Palmer has come through the Man City Academy. He's been nurtured and molded in his mentality by Pep Guardiola, who, if he knows one thing well, is breaking down these low blocks and breaking down these teams when they want to be defensive against us and stretching a play. And Cole Palmer will be a very, very good standard of player to be able to do that. So Cole Palmer needs to be starting these matches at the minute. And unfortunately, right, and this is one that pains me to say, actually, right? I'm from a place called Epsom. Conor Gallagher's youth team was Epsom Eagles. He used to play his youth football like where I'm from. He's a local boy and whatnot. Really, really like Conor Gallagher. Happy to see he's getting opportunities. Obviously, happy to see he got the captainship in those few matches. But at this second in time, I think it's a pet project, a little bit like Colwell at left back that he's persevering with a little bit too much for the second. I think that Conor Gallagher's going to come good, and I think that Conor Gallagher's going to be an important player for us. But at the minute, I think he might be good coming off the bench. When we're looking at young players coming in, and obviously I get there's other layers to it. You might need a vocal leader in the team and whatnot. But, you know, Ugochukwu looked really impressive when he played, and then he just drops him straight out the lineup.
And he was good when he come on against Villa as well, mate. I was at the game Sunday, and mate, when he come on as sub, he actually was decent. He was looking like he was making things happen. So I was really surprised that he didn't retain his place in the lineup, to be honest. But
the key sort of question here, and we know obviously for the next match. And by the way, I really like Nicholas Jackson. I'm going to have a lot of time for him and whatnot. But you've now got a suspension for the same offence 5 times over.
It's all dissent, isn't it? All of it.
What is that? Like, what is that? And that, do you know what as well? Like, the manager's come out, he's backed you, he's sort of put his neck on the line for you and whatnot. You've mugged him off a little bit there. Like, you know, you need to stop with the dissent. Like, at the end of the day, listen, we all know the referees are all a bunch of wankers in this league, but you don't say it to them. You know what I mean? He's only come over 5 minutes ago. I don't even know how he knows to swear at them or whatever he's saying.
Five bookings in 6 league matches for a fucking centre forward. Yeah, and none of them are from tackles. That's mad.
That's it, mate. And you know, it comes out of frustration at his own performances. So yeah, there are certain things that obviously Pochettino is, in my opinion, getting slightly wrong. And I'll say one thing, right? I think that stability and having the courage of your convictions is obviously a very good thing with a manager. And we see sometimes that managers don't drop players, they persevere with certain players, and sometimes it works. But let's remember a time it didn't work, a time that it did work to sort of back down on what you were initially doing tactically. We look back to Antonio Conte, you know, he changed from the 4 at the back to the 3 at the back that he had played over in Italy and he was more comfortable with. And what happened after a bad start we went on an unbelievable run and went on to win the league. So it does work both ways. And I think that Pochettino's viewpoint will be, do you know what? We've had so much instability, yeah. We changed formation something like 17 times last season. I think we
We're
played
all over the
11
place.
formations, 11 different formations last season. I didn't even know there was 11 formations. You know what I mean? Like, it's mental. So I think that he'll be looking at things and thinking, well, I don't just want to tinker all the time. I don't just want to keep changing things for the sake of it. I need to let the boys settle. And I understand that. It's a really hard one, mate. It's a really hard one because your guess is as good as mine.
I mean, how much? I mean, look, Poch is obviously that it's going to all fall on him. That the criticism and whatnot. And fair enough, you're the manager, you're kind of the face of it. But how much criticism do you feel the directors, the ownership should take? Because I'm not saying that we've set him up to fail. I think that's a bit too strong. But with the recruitment route we've gone down, fine. This is the route we're going down. You've chosen this route. You've got to understand that this route you've gone down is not going to be conducive to getting really good results in the short term. You've brought in a load of inexperienced players with high ceilings, high potential, but they're not players that are going to come in and deliver right this second. And that's what we're finding out. That actually, I kind of thought about it on the way home from the game, thinking these players are good. I like them. I like what we're doing. But maybe these players aren't good enough to do what we need them to do right now. And that, for me, is the big problem. That I don't worry about us in 2 or 3 years' time. But we can't be in a situation where we're just saying, "Oh, this season and maybe some of next season don't matter because in 2 or 3 years' time we're going to be good." We've taken a huge gamble here. We've gone high risk, high reward with this transfer strategy. You don't see many teams doing it. You could applaud them for being bold, thinking outside the box, going for something different. But ultimately, we've taken a huge risk, and I'm sure Pochettino, whether he's publicly or privately going to admit it, would have preferred a bit more experience. And I don't mean experience in going on a load of 28-year-olds, but experience in terms of guys that have played more games. Like, people always go to me, "Oh, Mudrik's the same age as Saka and Martinelli." Yeah, he is. Look how many games he's played compared to these guys. Geezer's played about 60 senior games of football compared to what Martinelli and Saka have been doing. So I almost feel that the directors or the club or whoever's decided to go down this route, they need to take a little bit more, not stick necessarily, but a little bit more of the criticism as well, because we can see this now. I don't want to sit here now and be all revisionist and say that, "Oh, I didn't like the transfer window," because I was gassing the transfer window up when we were getting all these signings, all these exciting young players. But I'm also big enough to admit that maybe this is not going to get us results in the short term, and it's going to take time. And now we're getting the project line trotted out, and fans don't like to hear that. I understand it's a project. I understand it's long term. I understand this is going to take time, but does that mean that we just write off results in the short term because we're doing a project? I mean, where do you stand on the recruitment side of things that we've done? And do you think the directors and the ownership should be taking a bit more brunt of the criticism for what's going on the pitch right now?
Yeah. You asked me how much they should be taking. I'd say it's about 95%. Do you know what I mean? It's like people don't realize what a significant impact the way the club's being run is. And obviously, it's too soon for me to come out and speak too negatively about Todd Boehly because, yeah, by some accounts, it could be a little bit spoiled. You know what I mean? He's come in, he's invested a lot of money into the club, and obviously, you know, he's thrown money about in the transfer window. He's brought a lot of young talent in, and I think it's a lazy analysis or narrative to go, "Oh, he's playing Football Manager," like all these people are saying, but when you look at the recruitment, right, it's hard for me to do this because I don't want to single out certain players, okay? But I'm going to have to for the sake of this argument. That doesn't mean I think these players are bad. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples, right? Maatsen was on the market, yeah? Didn't go for him, okay? Gundogan, he went Barcelona. Okay, they got Champions League football. They're in the Liga. But surely a player like that, we could have gone. You said earlier on, I'm not saying we need to go out and sign 28-year-olds. Mate, modern day football, players are at their peak until 32, 33 a lot of the time. What is wrong with a 28-year-old? He's going to give you 5 years of service. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying, oh, we go out and buy a load of 28-year-olds. But when a lot of the time, and I'm sure these owners are looking at the model of Arsenal and whatnot, and they're looking at them and going, well, all those young players, Odegaard young, Saka young, Martinelli young. Yes, I get that. But they also had a Granit Xhaka in there. They also had a couple of older heads in there to be able to guide some of these younger players through. So why did we not go and look at players who are maybe 26, 27 and think, okay, so they're a bit more for the here and now. And then you go, well, we got a couple of players like that. Yeah, a couple. That's the word. That's the key word there. We got a couple, okay? So we got Thiago Silva. What's your favourite quote from Thiago Silva in English?
He don't do any English in it.
You ain't got one because he don't
No.
speak English. I love him. I love the man, but he doesn't speak English, mate. You know what I mean? Like, fella's been here 4 years. He don't speak English. Raheem Sterling. I think that Raheem Sterling is an underrated player. I think he's a player that gets a bad rap, and it maybe says a little bit more about what's going on around us than actually what he's doing on the pitch. But Raheem Sterling is someone that I think will lead by example in terms of putting 100% in training, good mentality. I think he gets a harsh rap, as I say. Like, I think Raheem Sterling's the model professional, actually. But Raheem Sterling is not a vocal leader either. So then we're sort of putting it onto Conor Gallagher. You don't know he's even going to be in the team. Obviously, Poch is having him. Other managers weren't. Enzo Fernandez doesn't really speak any English. So where's it coming from? Reece James? Brilliant. But Reece James is on the injury table a lot of the time.
Always injured, yeah.
And I think that, Boehly has massively, massively underestimated the job he had on his hands. And just to sort of cap this point off on this, right? You sell an academy product, it's 100% profit. We all understand that. But realistically, yeah, do you know who we really could have done with right now? And people are going, oh, well, that's how far Chelsea have fallen. We could have really done with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, man. We could have done with Loftus-Cheek.
He's been balling for AC Milan.
We could have done with a few of them boys. Ruben Loftus-Cheek in there. A couple of them that have gone out. I think some of the sales were really good, and I think that Todd Boehly should be applauded for the fees that he got for some of these players. Getting a fee for Koulibaly, getting money for some of the players he's got rid of.
Havertz money as well was a great
Havertz money and the Mount money. I think that's brilliant. But there's certain players like Ruben Loftus-Cheek who would have played a key part here, would have been able to lift heads, bring other young players in, understand the culture of the club, and they're all gone now. And now we're in a situation where, let's say, for example, right, Axel Disasi, good player. Think he'll come good. Nothing wrong with Axel Disasi. But did we need him? Did we need Axel Disasi?
No, we didn't. We didn't need him. That's the big thing. We didn't need him. We created that Chalobah problem. We created that Trevor Chalobah issue for ourselves off our own back. We didn't need him. It's one of those where, look, I obviously support the Sassy. Things had a good start to the season, but we didn't need him. Did we panic in terms of getting ourselves another centre back after the Fofana injury? Maybe we did panic. I don't know, but yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't understand why necessarily we went to spend that money on him. But yeah, it is what it is at the moment. It is what it is right now. We're good.
We're good, yeah. So Axel Disasi, as I was saying, right, we spent the 45 million on him. But obviously we've got Chalobah, we've got Badiashile, we've got Colwell, we've got Thiago Silva, who's probably in his last year. We've also obviously got Fofana, who's out for the season. I get that. We've also got Bashir Humphreys, who have played in pre-season and looked good. I don't think I'm not going to say we didn't need to spend that 45 million. Look, I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm happy when we spend money. I'm very much used to it. But could it not have been invested a little bit more wisely? Or could you not have maybe said, okay, right, I get that we want sell-on value with all these players, but maybe success is a little bit more important in the short term than sell-on value. So maybe we will buy, I don't know, like I was saying, an IK Gundogan, someone like that. Someone with more experience to be able to come in. Even, right, mate, yeah, we spent how much on Caicedo?
what, 115, I think. Well, with add-ons included, yeah.
I'm not bashing Caicedo. Caicedo will come good. Caicedo will be a brilliant player, right? But you know, if we were going to spend 115, I'm telling you now, Rice would have come to Chelsea over Arsenal.
Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, look,
He would have. He would have. Of course, he would
mate,
have. He's a Chelsea fan.
I mean, I think I got hammered on Twitter when I said this, right? Like after Man United against Arsenal at the Emirates earlier this season, like saying that look, I'm delighted with Moises Caicedo. I think it's going to be great for us. But if I had a choice, I would have preferred Declan Rice. Not because I think he's miles better, but because at 24 years of age, a bit more experience, he's kind of been there, done that. And I just think he maybe suits a little bit more what we're looking for. But again, I agree with you. Like the Sassy thing, right? I've got a problem with him. I like the Sassy. I think he's had a good start to the season. But when you got Trevor Chalobah in the team, in the squad, who has been dependable for us, versatile, has played fielding at right back, fielding at centre back, fielding at number 6 on occasions for us, has never really let the team down when he's played. And then we've just basically fucked him off.
Yeah.
For no reason. I'm not saying
because
that,
if
like,
you sell Chalobah, you're going to get 100%
Yeah.
profit on the
Yeah.
sell. Okay, what are you going to get for him? What are you going to get for him when he sat and devalued himself on the bench?
Well,
You
and-
might
and-
get 25 million for
Yeah,
him.
and
Because
this
I'd
is-
heard quotes of 45 million. You're not
Yeah.
getting that. Say you
No.
get 25 million for him. You've just spent 45 on Sassy. Like, it's
Yeah,
madness.
and also back in November, Chalobah signed a 6-year deal, a new 6-year deal, and then they want out. They want rid of him like literally less than a year later. So a few things aren't adding up in terms of the way players are reportedly getting treated. And you talk about selling players trying to get the best money for it. We're phenomenal at selling players, not just this summer, but over the years we've been great at selling players. But another example, Mark Correa, obviously probably not going to. I get battered for this. I actually like him. I think he's a good player, but it's not happened for him at Chelsea so far. For whatever reason, maybe it's not the right fit, not the right setup, or whatever. But he is a depreciating asset that is just sitting on the bench playing zero football. We're going to struggle to get any. Honestly, mate, we struggle to get 20 mil for him. He's barely going to play this season.
We're not. Our best hope would be to loan him out, maybe pay part of the wages, and then hope that he can sort of skyrocket his value back up. But let's be honest, mate. You say that about struggling to get 20 mil for him. He's a left back. He's not a goal scoring left back. He's not a goal assisting left back. So you're not going to get anywhere near 60 mil from anyway.
No, we're not going to get anything for him.
Who in their right mind commissioned a 60 million bid or whatever it was for Cucurella?
Well,
and people can easily go now, oh, well, you wouldn't have said that at the time. No, I would. I would have said that.
We overpaid. We overpaid at the time. Like, City were in for him. They wouldn't go above 49 mil. 49 mil, you probably say, all right, do you know what? That's not bad. You probably say that was a round market price or whatever. But I agree with you, mate. You look at the areas that needed addressing, right? I know we've addressed the goalkeeping situation, but top class goalkeeper. I don't want to shit on Robert Sanchez because he's been decent for us in the last 2 games and he could come good. But that wasn't really the upgrade we as fans had in mind in the summer. I think that's fair to say. We didn't have that in mind. And then the one thing we needed, and I know the striker market is not good this summer. It wasn't good, but we need someone that could put the ball in the back of the net. We know this more than ever. I just feel we spent all this money on all these great players, but for me, I just think we've neglected 2 really important areas: a top-class goalkeeper and a top-class centre forward. We just didn't go and address it.
I could only counter it. And listen, like, I always want to try and be level-headed. I always want to try and be as fair as possible. And I could only counter that one by saying, goalkeeper, yeah, you're completely right. Not just because he's come in and looked decent for Arsenal so far and made a couple of heroic saves the other day. Look on my YouTube channel. I've been saying for months before he got the loan move to Arsenal, that we needed to sign David Raya. I've been saying it for ages. I really thought we needed to sign David Raya. And I think that a few people are going, well, he's not an upgrade on Kepa. And I'm like, mate, what are you watching? Of course he's an upgrade on Kepa. He's David Raya's a really, really good goalkeeper. So that's one that you could go, okay, well, there was the player there. We could have gone and got him. The striker one, I can sympathise with to an extent, because the obvious one that you draw a direct line from is us going to Brentford and saying, right, we'll have Ivan Toney off you, right? He was banned. We couldn't bring him in. And the other thing was we had, I don't want to call it a forced dawn just yet, but obviously the way we were feeling about Nicholas Jackson in
Pre-season
pre-season
hype.
is not the
Yeah.
way we're feeling about Nicholas Jackson right now, albeit I very much hope he'll come good. I think he's showing real glimmers of talent. I think it's another lazy analysis how everyone goes, yeah, but they weren't having Drogba at first. I was in the stadium. We was having Drogba.
Yeah.
I don't know what people are going on about with that. Drogba scored that header against Crystal Palace when we beat them at Selhurst Park. And from then, everyone loved him. And that was in about his second Premier League appearance. So we definitely were having Drogba. So I don't know where they're getting that from. But what I'm trying to say here is there wasn't a standout on the market.
I agree.
If you go up, Victor Osimhen, mate, what? Go and pay 120 million for Victor Osimhen, someone who's banged goals in Italy. So did Lukaku. We done it 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? We done it 2 years ago. Do we bring Lukaku back? No. Like I made a analogy with Brian on the kickoff the other day. It's like the ex-girlfriend that cheated. I don't care how good it is. I'm not taking her back. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's so many situations where, you know, there's probably not a standout goal scorer that you could guarantee you could go out and get. They're there on the market. And even the ones that have come good, well, I wouldn't say come good, but are showing real promise, yeah. Like, say, for example, you could have gone and got Højlund. He was so uncertain, mate. And I'm not saying now that he's going to be brilliant. For the most part, he looks like he settled into the Premier League better than Nicholas Jackson, and looks like he might be a player with a higher ceiling than Nicholas Jackson. Yeah. But that was still a gamble. So in terms of proven goal scorers, I will cut the board a bit of slack with that one.
I do agree with you on that one, mate. I do agree. Like, and that's what I was saying all through the summer. Like, for me, Ivan Toney is the perfect forward for Chelsea. Like, he just ticks all the boxes for me. I don't see any downsides in bringing him to the club. Of course, if he wasn't banned, I think we would have got him. It's going to be tough to get him in January. We're going to face competition from Arsenal and other players. But I think it's clear, and it seems mad to be talking about going to buy more players. We need to buy some more players in January. It's people will think, what are these guys on about? But I don't know about you, mate, but do you think we need more in January? I know we're kind of projecting a little bit ahead here, but if you can get Ivan Toney in January, you having it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if we can get Toney, but for the right price as well. Like, I think I think really Ivan Toney should be what he should be and what he will be is a very different thing. I think no more than 50, 55 million. And that's even me saying, like, 55 million is a lot of money, but because I just think, again, we go back to sort of like sell-on value. 27 years old, he's going to come in on a 5-6 year deal, and that's probably why he would pick us over an Arsenal, because we'll offer him a longer contract. And then, there's not really that sell-on value. No. Ivan Toney's not a player that relies on blistering pace or anything like that. So I think, and I've always said Ivan Toney would be a very good player in our system, in my opinion. So I think that Ivan Toney is the one position. Other than that, mate, I'm more bothered about who we get out rather than who we get in. Like, let's say, for example, and it's Chelsea, and we never do have a full strength 11. But if we've got a full strength 11, if we can go right, we've got Sanchez in goal. 4 at the back straight away. We've got Reece James, Thiago Silva, Levi Colwill, Ben Chilwell, if he chooses to play this. We go Enzo and Caicedo in the middle, and then in front of them, we go Nkunku on one side. We go Raheem Sterling on the other. And for me, I'm going to say on the left-hand side, we go Cole Palmer over Mudryk at the minute, unless he comes good. I literally did rate what he was doing the other day. And then we go Ivan Toney up top. Now, if we go with that team, I'm telling you now, from January, being a lot of our harder fixtures will have been out the way. Obviously, we'll have to repeat of them, but our harder run of fixtures will have been out the way. Then we can go on a run, and then we can possibly even get Europa League football or something like that. But again, it's not as easy as just going, these class players, these quality players, they need to gel. They need time together. They really do need to gel. And more importantly, is the ones that Poch wants to get rid of need to go as well. Because say, for example, at the minute, we've got 28, right? I think it's 28 in the squad. Fofana's out for the whole season. Call it 27 or whatever on a training pitch. Multiple injuries were going on. So say you got a load of players out injured. Even if you say, for example, right, when things are going just average, few injuries, but not an injury crisis like we've got now. Say you got 26, 26 players on the training pitch. Say you're doing 11v11s, that means you've got 5-6 players at any one time who know that not only am I not even in the first team, I'm not even in the second 11. And trust me, like, a couple of bad eggs in the changing room. And I'm not saying that they're bad eggs because of anything, they're bad eggs because they're going to be unhappy at their situation. A couple of that can very much bring morale down. So Pochettino wanted a 23, 24-man squad. And I think that until the clear out continues and we get rid of a few more, we're going to struggle to see these players become a real team.
Yeah, mate, I would agree with that. Just briefly touching on a few of the players that might go out. What do you think's going to happen with the Ian Maatsen situation? Obviously, we had the deal agreed with Burnley for 31.5 million in the summer. He didn't want to go. He's out of contract at the end of the season. January time, he's free to sign a pre-contract agreement with who he wants to. I mean, he did turn down a few offers in the summer, contract-wise. I think a 6+1 year deal was put on the table. Didn't sign it. I understand that he wants to assess his options at left back right now. It doesn't seem like he's getting in, and with Levi Colwill playing there, he's even further down the list. Even if Cucurella leaves, he's still behind Chilwell, and probably he's behind. He could well be behind Levi Colwill as well. So not really an opening there.
Do you see him as a left back?
Well, no, I don't. When people say to me, "Oh, I say to people, I don't think Poch sees him as a left back." They're like, "Oh no, he does." It's like he hasn't played left back once under Pochettino. Nothing in pre-season, and all the minutes he's played so far this season have been as in the three behind Nicholas Jackson. So
Yeah,
he obviously sees him as an attacker, but I don't know how highly Poch rates him, and I get it that we can't keep hold of every single player. Martin's a good player, but is he good enough to really make a big difference for Chelsea on a weekly basis? I would have to say I would have to move more towards no. If he gets a consistent run of games, maybe so, but I don't see where that consistent run of games come from. Would you be, because what we've got a problem is now where we're going to have to get whatever we get. If Martin doesn't want to sign a new deal, we're going to struggle to get much money for him because he'll be on a free in 6 months' time. So what are you thinking of the Maatsen situation? I mean, if you're him, are you staying? Do you think we should keep him?
I think that if he's not getting game time, much like Levi Colwill, when Levi Colwill didn't sign a new contract at first, now he's obviously signed it. But if he's not getting game time, he's going to go. But there's a lot of players that I would get rid of ahead of Ian Maatsen. I really like Ian Maatsen. You know, just having a little look at our squad now. I'd get rid of Cucurella ahead of him. I'd obviously get rid of Malang Sarr. He's still there. I'd get rid of him ahead of him. There's a lot of players in that squad that I'd get rid of a long time before I'd be getting rid of Ian Maatsen. So, yeah, that's a bit of a head scratcher for me. I'm surprised that we haven't had him involved a little bit more with the injuries we've had. And I do genuinely believe that he'll go on and be a top player for someone. You know, you could imagine him fitting right into a Brighton side, somewhere like that. So someone will snap him up, and he'll join the sort of growing list of talented academy products that we've, for some reason or another, let go of.
Yeah, I mean, what I would just quickly counter that point with is that, look, we've let a lot of them go. I would argue right now as it stands, I don't really think we've regretted any of those ones. At the time Tomori left, I was fuming about it. I was raging. But, you know, we fast forward, he's doing his thing for Milan, but we've got good centre-backs. Mason Mount is too early to say. Loftus-Cheek, maybe too early to say, but we got good years from him. So I don't have too many issues with that. Tammy Abraham at the time, I think people were happy to see him go. I don't necessarily think that was a massive issue, even though he scored he scored 15 goals for us in the league that season under Lampard. No one's done that since. Fair enough. But just a few of them there. I don't think we regret selling any of our academy players so far.
I don't think it's so much about regretting, but if you could say right now in this starting 11, does Tammy do a better job right now than Nicholas Jackson? In
Probably,
terms of
yes.
chance conversion, I'm going to say yeah. At the minute, it kills me to say it because I love the man. But if you said to me now, one that you didn't mention there, does Kurt Zuma do a better job in
Zuma,
this 11 at the minute than Thiago Silva? I'm going to say yeah, mate, unfortunately. And there is a few like that I sort of look at. There's probably ones that aren't coming off the top of my head right now that I'm like, do you know what, we could maybe do with him. Mason Mount, I couldn't care less. Mason Mount didn't want to be at the club. There's a whole false narrative going on with that. Oh, Chelsea disrespected Mount. Mate, we offered him 200 grand a week. I'm telling you now, whether you can go and get more at Man United or whatever, we offered you 200 grand a week. There's sort of ways around it. And obviously, you know, if I'm in any sort of friendship or relationship or whatever, and that person's not doing well, or even an employer and they're not doing well, but they've showed me years of loyalty and service and whatnot, I'm gonna wanna try and fight for them. So that's one that, you know, I've probably got a little bit of ill feeling towards, and I'm not really that bothered about it. But I do think there are players, you know, that maybe it's not so much a regret. There's two ends of the spectrum, isn't there? And obviously life isn't black and white. There is sort of middle ground on a few of these. So am I saying that I'm massively regretful that these players have gone? No. But what I am saying is, if you look at a spine of a team right now, I think that we could do with a Kurt Zouma. I think we could do with a Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And I think we could do with a Tammy Abraham right now at this moment in time. Do things start to change quite quickly and then we're not regretful of that? Yeah, probably. So, I can see both sides on that one, mate.
No, absolutely, mate. I mean, let's throw it forward. Luckily, we haven't got to sit on the Villa performance for a week. We're straight back into action Wednesday night, Carabao Cup. Bit of a grudge match at home to Brighton after everything that's gone on between the clubs over the last sort of 18 months or so. It's good that we've got a chance to put this right straight away. But me, with my slightly cynical hat on right now, because it's hard to be positive about a lot of things at the club at the moment, particularly on the pitch, saying what's really going to change from Sunday to Wednesday? Not very much, in my opinion. Do you think anything's going to change? I mean, how do you see this game? Because for me, the Carabao Cup, and people laugh at it, this is really important for us this year. We're not winning the league. The FA Cup is going to be tough. Like, we need to win a trophy, a domestic trophy. We haven't had one since 2017 FA Cup. We've lost our last 5 or 6 Wembley finals, whatever it is. This shit needs to be taken seriously. So I don't want to see that many changes. We then don't play again until Monday night. Plenty of time to recover and prepare for that Fulham game. So how do you see it? Do you think we should be going full strength? Do you think the Carabao Cup is it important to you this season?
Massively important to me, mate. Listen, I'll give you another analogy here. I used to box, and when I was boxing, I'd be dieting for like months on end, yeah, and I'd have something like a low calorie cake slice or something, and it would be like heaven, right? And it's because I was completely starved of it. And where my club have been starved of success recently, I'm telling you now, a League Cup, an FA Cup, anything like that would be like heaven at the minute. A trip to Wembley would be brilliant, looking at the FA Cup against the FA Cup final against Liverpool. Was it the League Cup final or FA Cup final? I think
both. We had both of them a couple of years ago. Both
it, yeah. Obviously, looking at that seems like a very, very distant memory. So I think that we need to take it very seriously. I think we need to go full strength. I think we need a full strength 11 in this match. I wouldn't rotate all that much. The only one I would do, because I'm doing a preview video on this tomorrow with Matisse, another Chelsea content creator, and I was writing down what I would have as my starting 11, and there really wouldn't be much tweaking, but the only thing that I would do is I would give Sterling a rest in this game, and that might raise a few eyebrows, because you might think, well, he's our most likely match winner, and I do very much get that, but we're hanging a lot of our hopes on Raheem Sterling. He had a couple of injury setbacks last year and whatnot, and I don't want us to sort of burn the candle at both ends of him. But apart from that, I would go pretty much full strength. So I'd probably rest Sterling, and actually my preference would be maybe to either bring Maatsen in. I'd have Cole Palmer in the 10 either way, and I'd probably have Gallagher out of that team. And obviously, look, we're gonna give Bro a run out. We'd probably see a bit of David Washington as well, or David Washington, however you pronounce it. But yeah, I'd go full strength. And I'll tell you one thing, right? This is Brighton's 3rd game in 6 days.
Yeah, they had.
And when you look at their run of fixtures,
then Bournemouth, and then this game, but they'll be bang up. They'll be bang up for this as well, though. Like, they won't. I don't think there's only probably make changes, but they won't want to throw this game. Like,
they made changes against United, mate. Look how that went.
Well, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they won't want to throw this game. This game will mean a lot to them after kind of everything that's happened, as I said. So this is going to be difficult. I mean, I'll be honest, mate. I don't have much confidence going into this game because, as you said, mate, we can just copy and paste all our performances. I could almost tell you now what's going to happen on Wednesday. We'll create a few chances. We'll miss them. We'll give up a couple of opportunities like we always do. They'll score. We can't break them down. Rinse and repeat. And we lose again. So look, this is really important, because otherwise we're just playing. I say we're playing once a week. Like, you look forward to these games, but I can't tell you how bad it was. Like, I didn't really sort of realize it until the Champions League started up the other week. How shit playing once a week is. It's honestly, mate, it's dire. It is dire. But look, I'm looking forward to the cup tie. It should be a decent game, and we just need some sort of reaction. I mean, are you expecting a reaction? What's your? As I think I touched on it earlier, but what are your thoughts on our kind of mentality? As soon as we go a goal down, it's like we're finished, and the evidence is there, and a large body of evidence. Do you think we've got a mentality issue as such? Because that's something that's been labelled at Chelsea for a number of years by a lot of previous managers, and it's hard to disagree with it because heads seem to drop after we go a goal down.
Yeah, if our squad age was older, I would be saying we probably have got a mentality issue. But I'm gonna sort of sympathise with the boys a little bit and say, look, when I was 20, you know what I mean? Like, most of our players are 20, 21. Like, so I think if we had a load of 27-year-olds in there, I'd be saying, mate, we've got a mentality issue. We got no bollocks. We can't finish games off. But because they're young, I'll give them a lot more sympathy, and I won't sort of label them with having that issue as much as maybe I would if our squad age was a little bit older. Look, I'm pretty much the same as you, mate. I'm going to the game. The thing I'm probably looking forward to the most is having a couple of beers because I know I ain't going to see a couple of goals. I would say that it's probably going to be a 0-0 draw, and maybe we even
Penalties.
go out on penalties. Yeah,
Oh,
something like that.
Jesus.
So.
Yeah, that'll be pretty tough. But I just wanted to touch on home form briefly before we round out. Stamford Bridge was a fortress back in the day. We went 80 odd games unbeaten at home in the league under Mourinho. It was a really tough place to go. Teams feared going there. They'd almost lose. They would have lost the match in the tunnel. Now, no exaggeration, I think it's one of the easiest places as a visiting team to go and play your football. Like we are so bad at home. Well, I mean, look, we're not that much better on the road, but I think we're set up better to play away from home. But particularly Stamford Bridge, mate, what do you reckon's going on there? Because as I said, it used to be such a good place, and now, like, I'll be honest, I go to a lot of games. Atmosphere's not great. It's never been that great at Stamford Bridge. If we're being totally honest about it, big games, fine, but other games, it's not great. Um, I just don't know what it is. But what would you put our home struggles down to? Because it's one win.
Where
It's
do you
one win in
sit?
the last 10. One win last 10. Sit Matthew Harding lower.
Yeah, that's where I normally am when I'm there. So, yeah, the Matthew Harding's not bad. Obviously, if you're in the
Yeah.
West Stand or the East Stand, the atmosphere's rubbish, isn't it? But the Matthew Harding's not bad. I think, like, it's hard. Like, when we're going on about home form, say, for example, right, first match I ever went to, I was quite old by the time I even started going to Chelsea, to be fair. The first match I went to was like 2001. So I was like 7 or something. And we played Southampton, and I went all the way until the first. And bearing in mind, like, I went to a lot of matches when I was younger. There was a time there from sort of 2002 to maybe 2006 where for 4 seasons I was going to more or less every home match, all the London away matches and whatnot. And there was a time. So from when I first went, it took me all the way until. Do you remember when we signed Torres, and in the next game we had Liverpool?
Yeah, that was class.
That was the first time I saw us lose at Stamford Bridge. First
That's
time I'd
mad.
ever seen us lose
Yeah.
at Stamford Bridge. And then under Thomas Tuchel, it started, yeah. So it was like, I think who was we playing?
I mean, didn't
Might have
we
even
lose
been
to
under no.
Burnley at home in the league? Didn't we lose to Burnley at the Bridge like 2 or 3-0? We got
So
battered
the
by
match
Bournemouth
I'm
a few
thinking
times as
of,
well.
we lost to Brighton.
Yeah.
I think that was Welbeck, you know. Then I was at the game where we got thumped 4-1 by Brentford when Rudiger scored the screamer.
Yeah, that
And
was
then
mad.
it just consistently picked up overtime. And then it's now like, I go to Stamford Bridge now and I'm like, yeah, we're probably going to lose. Like,
Yeah.
we lose most times I go now. Do you know what I mean? I'm up there probably, I'd say 12 home games a season or something, 13 home games a season, something like that. So yeah, it's not a fortress anymore. It's not a fortress by any means. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, mate, where you said that it's the sort of ground that, you know, clubs are going to now, and they're very much expecting to win. You know, anyone that goes to Stamford Bridge, especially when you look last season, yeah. All right, Leicester, we done the double over, but Leeds, you know, we know how that went. Southampton, they done a double over us.
Yeah.
And you look at the teams that are down there, they were all getting wins over us, you know. About when Brentford came to Stamford Bridge last season, I rate
Mate.
Brentford, mate. Thomas Frank, good manager. Bueno, Ivan Toney, a lot of good players in that team, but they're fucking Brentford, mate. And when they came to Stamford Bridge last
They
season, yeah,
ruined us.
you knew they were going to beat us. Everyone
Yeah.
knew they were going to beat us. Done us 2-0, didn't get out second gear. You know what I mean? So it's not like, look, one thing that don't sit right with me is last season was the first time in God knows how many years, even the season when we finished 10th, when I haven't actually seen us turn over sort of top 7 opposition. We lost every time we played them and a couple of times we drew, okay? And I thought, okay, this season there might be ups and downs, but at least I'll see us, you know, beat some of them. At the minute, it's looking very unlikely, mate. You know, people say that Man United are in crisis, and I do get that, but Man United have shown character in some games. You know, it did take character. They were shit against Burnley the other night,
They
but
were
it
dog
did
shit.
take
Yeah.
character to get a win there. They were rubbish against Nottingham Forest, but it did take character to come back 3-2 and get a win there. Wolves, they were awful against, but it takes character. Jose Mourinho made a career almost out of winning games where, you know, his team weren't the better side and whatever, but tactically he just got it right. Those moments went right for him, and his team had bottle and guts to get it done when it weren't playing well. Or when they weren't playing well, sorry. And even at the minute when we're not playing well, we ain't getting it done, mate.
Mate, we're just not getting it done full stop, whether we're playing shit, whether we're playing good or anything. We're just not getting it done. But again, I think that comes back to the experience thing. You look, but I hate like going back to the past. Oh, God, remember when we had the glory days when we had XYZ player. But I don't think this happens with experience, with a strong core of experienced pros in the team. I just don't think it does. Don't get me wrong, when we had Cech, Drogba, Lampard, Ballack, Terry, all these guys, we lost games. We played shit in certain matches, but you knew we were never going to go on a piss poor run because we had winners, we had that elite mentality, we had players demanding like the high standards. I look at Chelsea right now, it's probably some really nice young kids, could go on and be top players. But I think it's all a little bit too nice. I can't imagine after we've lost the game, who's digging someone out in the changing room? Who's demanding the standards? Who's saying this is not good enough? Like we see Thiago Silva do it. He moans at players on the pitch. I don't see anyone else doing that. Where's our standards in terms of we need to be doing more, guys? You need to produce more. Where's the communication between the players? You can tell that these guys have been newly assembled because no one knows how to play with one another. And that again is a big thing. And another reason why I do feel a little bit sorry for the gaffer, because it's hard to gel that together quick time with the pressure you've got on at Chelsea. But you just feel with a more experienced team that perhaps some of these issues don't happen. And in a few years' time, it could be amazing. We could sit back and look at these conversations and think, oh, why are we so worried? Why are we so negative or whatever? But the reality of the situation is right now is that I think a lack of experience or a lack of know-how, a lack of, I don't want to say standards, because I think every footballer wants to win. But do you know what I mean? A lack of demanding high standards is costing us.
I don't so much think it's standards. I just think it's know-how. And the key word you used there was pressure. Why did we look so good in pre-season? Because we didn't have no pressure on us. No pressure on us. Of course we look good. And these players, you know, there's nothing wrong with it because of their age. They just can't deal with the pressure at the moment. And obviously that's something that is really coming back to bite us in the arse game on game. And obviously, I sound like a broken record here, but it's what I was saying. We needed a few older heads in that team. Maybe we shouldn't let a Kovacic go, you know? Maybe there's a few players in there. I use Ruben Loftus-Cheek as an example, but there's a few players in there that maybe would have been a little bit more useful around the squad at this moment in time. But ultimately, you can go, okay, well, we're going to sign those players now. But those players don't understand the club. They don't understand the culture, and they're going to have to take time to gel in. And it's not too hard to gel when you come into a Manchester City team that are playing really well, or an Arsenal team. But when you come into a Chelsea team that are in crisis, and then all of a sudden everyone's looking to you, much like we are in Nkunku at the moment, when he comes back from injury and going, you could be the game changer for us. How much pressure does that put on people?
Bro,
They're young players. How much pressure
like,
is that going to put on them?
He's getting built up like he's going to be like Messi coming back. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Nkunku. I think he's a top player. But the way that the reports are coming out of the club and fans are going on, it's like, hang on a second. It's like this guy's going to come back and he's going to transform us and all our problems are going to go. It's like, this guy's never kicked a fucking ball for us in the Premier League. Like, and we're building him up to be the Messiah and the savior. Like, he'll make a difference. Sure, he will make a difference, definitely. But he's not the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Like, it's not like we're 3/4 of the way there, dropping Nkunku in. We're going to be balling and we're going to win trophies and titles. It's not like that, but it's being built like that. Think of the pressure on him, as you say. It's a madness. I mean, mate, to round out, final question. I know it's probably quite a difficult one to answer, but how do you see this season panning out? I know first 6 games been poor, as we've discussed, but how do you see this going? Because I don't know if I'm just trying to make myself believe this, but I do believe that we will get better. These players will improve. We will improve as a team the longer the season goes on. I just don't know how long it's going to take. But how do you see this panning out? this season for us.
I was talking to Danny Murphy the other day, right? And he would have a much better sort of footballing opinion than myself and a lot more know-how and knowledge on it. And he said to me that he thinks that Chelsea will still be pushing for those top 5 spots come the end of the season, right? My problem is this. We could get a win against Fulham. It's unlikely away from home. Fulham are a good side. You know, Burnley, I'd fancy us to maybe go and get a win there, but I'd have fancied us to get a win against a lot of these teams that we haven't been getting wins against. And then you look at that run of fixtures, and come the end of that run of fixtures, I would be very surprised if we are playing how we're playing at the minute, if we're any higher than 14th, 15th position. So I think the sort of lowest that we would finish this season would be about 15th. And I think that because I think there's some piss poor teams in the league this season. I think it's a season like no other season where you can pretty much guarantee that definitely Sheffield United and Luton are going down. Burnley are the only ones that, because they play a nice bit of football, I sort of think, okay, maybe if you could get a goal scoring in January or something, you could have a late push and get out of trouble. Obviously, there's a couple of sides in there that, you know, Bournemouth don't play that bad of football. They held us to a draw and they could come good a little bit. Wolves, I see being right down there. Everton, I don't really see improving much, albeit they had a good result on the weekend. So worst case scenario, I see us about 15th or something. Best case scenario, I see us maybe having a late push for Europa League football and maybe getting a 7th spot or something like that. But as it stands right now, I'm completely ruling us out of being able to push for Champions League football, because I think that unless we're taking points off of the teams like Newcastle's, like Brighton's, and sort of teams like that around us, well, not around us in the table at the minute, but around where we want to be, then something could happen. And a few teams could drastically drop off. And the old adage that everyone's saying at the moment about, Thursdays, Sundays with these Europa League campaigns, which will obviously be hitting the likes of Brighton and Aston Villa, yeah, maybe it could come to fruition. But at the same time, Aston Villa have played on the Thursday. We played them a couple of days later and we still lost to them. You know, Brighton, they would have had,
Thursday,
3 games
Sunday,
in 6 days by
Wednesday.
the time we play them. And I still think we'll probably lose to them. So at the minute, it ain't looking good. It's looking bleak. What I would say is this. If I don't see anything, and I get that we're saying, we've seen some good passages of play. For me at the minute, I haven't seen hardly anything from Poch, right? But if I don't see anything, if I don't see some cause for optimism and we finish 12th, 13th, then obviously then we're going to be looking at it and going, I don't know what's going on here. But if we finish 10th, but you know what? We have a few good runs and whatever. And there's a glimmer there that, okay, maybe with a bit more balance to this squad and maybe with a bit more settlement, we can go and push on. I'm not going to be a spoiled brat as a Chelsea fan. I'm going to say, okay, cool. You know, if someone had told me in 2002 or something like that, 2003, that we were about to go on a 20-year period of the greatest period of time that our club has ever had, but at the end of it, you're going to have to grit your teeth through 2 shit seasons while we rebuild, I would have gone, yeah, cool. So I'll have a bit of that. So because of that, I want to keep a bit of perspective and a bit of hindsight on it and go, okay, look, let's not throw the baby out the bathwater just yet, and let's persevere with the situation we've got. So, look, hopefully, very, very hopeful we can pick up form. And do you know what? Maybe the tough run of fixtures will be the making of us. Maybe we get a good result in that, and it will lift confidence. And I do very much think, like I was saying about the teams that are around us at the bottom of the table at the minute, the ceiling for Chelsea is a lot higher. There's not a team around us that you could go, yeah, but one good win, one good win could just be the fuse paper lit and then you could just go. And I'm not saying we're going to beat Man Cities and teams like that, but let's have it right, mate. Like, Liverpool are going to be right up there or thereabouts. I favour Liverpool to maybe even finish above Arsenal this season.
I think so as well.
We've got a draw against them and outplayed them at times and look good. So that can give you a little bit of optimism to say there's something there. There's something there. We just need to grow a set of bollocks.
Mate, couldn't have summed it up better myself, and seems like a good point to round out on. Bro, thanks so much for your time. Massively appreciate it. If people don't know where you're at, what you're doing, for whatever reason, they should do, because you're everywhere at the moment. Where should they go? And let them know about the Football Content Awards as well.
Yeah, so yeah, that's only come up today, to be fair. So the Football Content Awards, I've been nominated for an award on that. I can't remember the name of the award, but it's one. It's on my story somewhere. Obviously, Joey Knight podcast on YouTube. That's my YouTube channel where I'm covering all things Chelsea. To be honest, 90% of the time it's Chelsea. Every now and again, I'm getting a little bit of other Premier League football stuff, drips and drabs in. Obviously, I'm on the kickoff regular at the minute with True Geordie, who's a top bloke, doing real good things for getting my name out there, and I'm very, very appreciative to him. yeah, Instagram, Joey Knight Podcast, TikTok, all that stuff, mate. I'm sure if you type in Joey Knight, you'll find me there or thereabouts somewhere.
Yeah, no, guys, do all that good stuff. Go and show Joe some love. This channel will be tagged in the title, so you just got to click on it, subscribe to him. Go and vote for him in the Football Content Awards as well. He's smashing it at the moment. Mate, thanks so much for your time, as always. Massively appreciate it. Guys, make sure you smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new around here. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll catch you again in another episode soon.